Voltiax in a situation he doesn't want to be in. Very unfortunate. They're actually picking up Mighty Pelican. Hold on a minute. Things have changed their hand here a bit. What should have been the end of Maze and Voltiax might just be new life in this game, new blood, but no, hard find. You know, when you've got a strong controller player in your box like that, there's rarely going to be a chance for you to actually come out alive. But you saw that there, yeah, I'll be rolling up, and we know what they can do.
It's like the little NPCs that, you know, they get the little exclamation point over the head. That was Albie. He spotted that one in the disc. They said, uh-oh, somebody's nearby. Quickly tries to beeline, take advantage of anybody that might be weak, as Flickseek is going to clean that one up along with Cheatin'. Get themselves early surge, early elimination. Spotting a build fight break out right in front of them. They're licking their lips right now. Even more surge theirs for the taking. See a down go throughout the sky. And this game, Levin, compared to last, is getting rather ramped up quickly.
Yeah, a lot of action taking place rather early here. I told you, man. Game 4, 5, 6, that's where things really start to get intense. You've seen already to start game 4. Just exactly how some of these players are looking to move now. But Albie and Ludwig, can they continue their reign of terror on the lobby? Can they continue to be the force they've been in these games? You'd love to see it for sure. There is always that possibility.
Almost in the double-digit elims per game. They can keep up this pace, maybe tag on a few more on the tail end as Merstash and Tayson hearing that fight go down very early on. Closing in on the distance, trying to take advantage of any weak players in the distance. Merstash might feel like he knows Hardfind is down there. Solo separated from the rest of his team. Tayson trying to be hot on his heels as well. This is a 2v1. They want to close out rather quickly. But Hardfind going back into Kylie and Vico, sandwiched between two different duos. This is not a situation I would ever want to be in, as Vico finds him slip and takes him out. But Merstash still closing in on the distance.
Merstash and Tayson, you know how scary they can be in this kind of situation. That's a tough prospect to handle.
Quickly just stealing that one away. Milad and Kyrie. It's actually just Kyrie versus Milad here. 1v1 situation, both of them losing their duos. Finding the scraps of the Shockwave Hammer. And this is where he definitely has a perfect decision. 2 different Shockwave Hammers. He can get out, get the reboot, and then spread the love, spread the joy between him and his teammates. Shockwave Hammer each, but that's only if he even has the reboot. Because you see 2 more teams closing on the distance as a 3rd and 4th party. Angry they didn't get their invite, so they're going to crash it nonetheless. This is just one of those situations where with both of these solos just prolonged in this situation, trying to find the reboot, using each other as a distraction. Milad is going to do just that. It does look like he's going to be the one escaping with his life.
The ideal situation for him, right? Being able to get out there, especially with so many teams. This fight definitely has the potential to get rather messy. You could argue already is messy. With just how many players are here.
Super Eye, F-Binds, one of those teams that didn't necessarily land towards Lonely Labs, but hearing those shots in the distance, they close the gap, trying to take what they can get. And one of those things that they're trying to take away from Lonely Labs that you see a lot of teams do, they start to scavenge a lot of that metal that they might not necessarily get in their landing spot, whether it's a POI or a landmark. Seti and Cammy. The only duo to place top 10 in every single game today. They're the true kings of consistency. And then sticking true to the game plan that they wrote out eons ago. Find the eliminations late in the game where those opportunities will naturally present themselves. Honestly, they just need to continue doing what they're doing, and they're going to be off to the races.
Thomas and Malabuka. I'm interested to see whether or not they start to pick up the pace in these last couple of games. I think a lot of people will be hoping they can start to get there. I think there's probably no doubt that this team will eventually make it to the FMCS Grand Finals. The question will just be, can they get to their form of earlier this season?
You can see just that activity towards Brutal Bastion is almost like it's non-stop. PotisEye squeeze. They got themselves that early game elimination. Two other teams close by just trying to steal away the loot, prevent somebody else from getting that capture point. That's a lot of loot you're giving up to somebody else, and for PotisEye and X-Squeeze, it's just about taking height and really trying to put pressure down on the lobby. And you can see them being very, very weary about everybody else in the distance, which is a good attribute to have.
See Queasy and Vino still looking good. Of course, here in Game 4, we have a bit of a switch up on our side, Jacob. We now have the wonderful Vivid here to fill us in on some of the things we've missed. Vivid, what you got for us?
Guys, Game 3, aggression has been the name of the game for a lot of these duos. Already 72 players alive in the lobby. Now, that makes it tough for any duo that isn't as aggressive. Now, of course, Cammy and Seti, one of those duos. Every single time that they get is going to mean so much more. And Augments, of course, like Bush Warrior, going to help with that. We'll have to see how some of these non-aggressive duos fare in Game number 3.
Thank you, Vivid. Really answering my questions that I've had in my head. Without getting any eliminations till late in the game, Seti and Cammy, how are you getting your surge? What is your game plan? Seeing it all break down in front of us, giving me the missing puzzle pieces to that story, showing why they are one of the best teams to grace Fortnite, no matter the region.
I agree. I'm not going to disagree with you on that one.
I was waiting for you to say something because I was looking at you.
I agree.
I know you're a huge fan of Vino and Queasy. They have a good argument.
I'm a fan of great. I'm a fan of greatness.
Okay.
You're great. I like you.
I can agree with that. That's probably why I like you as well. You're just great.
Thank you.
Has nothing to do with the height. This is going to be a great opportunity for somebody to really rise up the ranks, get the surge they were looking for, get a ton of loot that they might have not gotten at their POI. Helix and Tilt Turn are going to be on the low ground. Mappy stuck by himself, and you can see Marine and Paco looking like they're trying to close in on the distance, knocking out the doors. But it looks like just everybody in this situation as the zone continues to pull north. It's a little centered, but it still continues to pull north. The longer you take in a situation like this, whether you're fighting or not, makes it that much harder to get into the zone because you're going on the most congested side while everybody else has already beaten you there.
An update here in terms of how Marius and Frednex are doing. Of course, they've been a team that's definitely impressed today. Maybe some would consider one of the more surprised teams in terms of their position in the standings. Chasing the mustache. No real surprises today in their play. Again, I'd like to see them have their game, right? You typically expect some of these top dogs to come through and eventually roll it and win a game. Chasing the mustache in the previous one. Caught in the crossfire up above. Weren't able to connect with their shots and were punished as a result of it. The Pink and Nebs, to see them doing as well as they're doing with some of the zones they've had to deal with today, I think is a big sign of the potential of this team. Haven't necessarily been the flashiest and most impressive, but they are here. They are fighting. If they do get the chance to show what they can do, I'd love to see them have one of their classic dominant height games maybe, or maybe something more humble down below in mid and low.
I like what Pink is doing, man. Just throwing some darts and landing them all around the map. Building that cushion when it comes to Storm Surge, making it less and less of a worry as the game does progress. As the Bull, Vexy have that same aspect of a cushion of 363 above the damage threshold. They're already almost going towards that center zone. Possibly just trying to build themselves a great spot to where when all these other teams begin to rotate in, when the next zone pulls and they end up possibly on the congested side, they don't have to worry about surge. They can just focus on that rotation, beating other teams in the chase as Carmi and Vaniac end up in another fight. 75 below the damage threshold. The choice isn't necessarily theirs. They have to take what they can get in this situation as Astral is getting pushed back. This is not what you want to be on here, but they're on the defensive end. They can quickly peek, try to take down Carmi's shield along with Vaniac, especially if they're separated.
Oh, dear.
In comes a new challenger.
Yeah, out of nowhere almost. I'm sure that one surprised Carmi a bit of a jump scare. But it's by no means the end of this horror movie. Still plenty more acts to go. He needs to regroup with Vaniac if there's any hope for them, and that's exactly what they'll do. Hellfire does pose a threat. I think now that they realize it is just the one player now, they just had to go on the offensive, not without some punishment though from the rest of the lobby.
Gotta be careful though, because they were just fighting a team right below them. They could try to bounce back up and try to make them regret it as one goes down. Vaniac with just a sliver of HP. Hellfire!
Wow.
Along with Revsguard, really cementing themselves here in this game. That's a confidence booster if I've ever seen one myself. And you can take a look at the map. All of those other teams using that as a distraction to try to get into zone, but they're not going directly in towards the middle zone. They're trying to gatekeep this team out, but they don't know how dangerous they can be.
Hellfire was sitting there all alone and made quick work. An absolute nightmare there for Kami and Vaniac. And that will be the end of the horror story for them.
Wow.
All due to the good work of Hellfire. Very impressive stuff in a 2v1 right there.
Exactly what you want to do when they test you. You pass that test. You can see them leaving Achilles Plunder map behind. You got to think that buried treasure probably outside of zone, not worth their time for Flixie and cheating. But hey, if somebody else finds that and they're in shambles, one man's trash is another man's treasure, almost literally when it comes to Achilles Plunder. But 307 above, cheating and Flixie. They know that one team is right next to them. They're just getting themselves right at the edge of zone, so they don't have much to worry about. 288, Albion Ludwig. One of the most dominant teams that we've seen on the day. First place, single game elimination record at 11 in game number 3. We've seen some records break yesterday, and they're looking to do it here again today as they get tagged up on the edge of zone, having to stabilize themselves in this position for now. But 261 above the damage threshold, there's at least that. They don't have to hunt for any of these shots.
Yeah, I've been mighty impressed with this team. A duo who by no means are considered the stars of the region, but very experienced players. Have had their fair share of successes in previous chapters, previous seasons. And maybe this will be the one where they really start to increase their rep and their respect within the region from some of the big dogs. Of course, Queasy and Vino have an abundance of that respect. They obviously started the day very hot and have been an ever-present force throughout it. But right now, things are looking very, very tough for Queasy. Takes a big chunk of damage. That's going to cause him some issues. It's going to leave a mark.
I like that. Take note about that right there. You saw Vino could have easily beeline. He could have got to the edge of zone. He could have got himself to safety, but he realized the strength in numbers. Queasy was just getting tagged up. He immediately backtracks to hold his teammates' walls. That's something that, you know, at the high level, it's common sense, but for anybody out there trying to take notes of little intricacies that our pro players do, that's something you definitely should jot down in your notebook. That strength in numbers. XQueeze and Podesai showed that early on in the game, able to 2v1 that early elimination. Snazy and Andalex showing what you can do with an uncontested drop. 121 below the damage threshold, though. The only downfall, really, of an uncontested drop is Andalex gets sent back to the lobby, having to watch his teammate perform. And 88 below the damage threshold, at least he can start giving out information, helping Snazy think outside of the box in terms of his typical game plan.
He needs to connect to something big here. Not quite doing that. 30 damage being all he takes, and so now just looking to take the game into his own hands, taking initiative, wants to break his way through. He's up against a duo, but he does not care. That's not going to stop him. He just needs to deal damage and fast, and unfortunately, the only person taking damage will be him. One problem is, though, he's starting to cause a domino effect that Flodax and Rifty are going to have to suffer from. They have now a bunch of players who are closer to the zone, at least, holding them in their current position, pressuring them so that they have to stay here. They do have mats, and so they can hold on, but again, it is just inconvenient, and Rifty going to have to use some shields as a result of it.
Yeah, about five singular players trying to focus on, grab that elimination. Merstash and Tayson, they already have 2 of their own. Just on the edge of zone, kind of where we've seen them last, so not too much of a rotate to finally get in, especially since they have that shockwave hammer. For them, they're just trying to gatekeep, add on to their already having surge totals. Refsguard's going to be by himself after a heroic save by Hellfire to stay alive, 1v2 situation. He was one of those teams putting focus in the lobby onto Flodax and Rifty. And for him, shockwave hammer, he can kind of pick and choose when he rotates, but he has to be very, very careful, because if he rotates too soon, they're going to go ahead and target him right out of the sky.
Thomas Malabuka How many times have we seen them looking like this? Thomas up above, looking at all the angles. Malabuka a bit further down below. Yeah, positioned well in the zone. I wonder whether or not they have that forecast augment. Maybe they start to pull that 5th zone. That would be very, very useful. Of course, knowledge of that 5th zone and where it is so valuable when forecasting and projecting how your end game is going to go.
And a little bit of change in pace we might see here towards this next end game. Instead of the massive differences in elevation changes, we just got an ice skating rink at the bottom. Not much to worry about. Some players can use that as a tool for their escape. Others might get a little frustrated if they don't expect it. As Queasy and Vino, you can see them kind of reform while one's holding that height, gathering the information. 858 above for Shimoki and Swizzy. They got themselves a good spot, but it's a little crowded on this left side. Depending on where this next one goes, could cause some utter chaos and destruction for half of the lobby.
Shimoki and Swizzy, a team that competed in Asia in previous years. Now here in EU, trying to make a big name for themselves on a bigger stage. They're not doing too bad of a job of that so far today. The zone pulling all the way though towards the northeast. They have a max distance to go. And so if there was ever a time to sort of show off what they can do, it would be now. Of course, the hammer will definitely help them. And maybe the ice will allow them to skid their way on into that zone once they get there. But you have to be very, very careful about how they proceed in the next couple of minutes. Refsguard all alone, even with all of Hellfire's heroics in the 2v1 earlier in this game. They are just left with the one player defend for their spot in the leaderboard, currently at 20th.
See him just trying to top himself off before this next rotation. Going to the backside of zone, using the med mist to get himself there. Seti and Cammy. We saw their game plan very, very early on when it came to Surge. Even though they don't have 0 eliminations, they don't have very much to worry about. Short padding to the front side of zone. Very little distance to cover. But this is exactly what I'm talking about, slipping and sliding all over if you don't expect it. The cones are going to be a must in a situation like this. Fire Hunter flying high through the sky, doing so as a solo. Doesn't look like Rolls is anywhere nearby. As Seti and Cam are just continuously not only gathering the information, but putting shots at anybody trying to box up close by so they know that it's not safe. You don't have that feeling of comfortability.
Rolls and Fire Hunter, they have a bone to pick with the lobby. They'll be very, very hopeful of their chances in this one. We saw Groves' game come to a tragic end last time round as he shockwaved himself right into another team's box and had no defense to answer with it. Now, though, they sit in a better spot. Still not as fruitful as maybe they would want to be when it comes to their resources. But the chance is there. Bino and Queasy, another game where they get to play it as a duo. We know what they can do in those kind of situations. One of the top dogs right now in this lobby. You can expect Queasy is cooking up something devious to get them in through to that first zone.
I'm almost playing like a trivia mini game in my head as Ludwig lost Albi. And if he's going to make history, have a top 3 finish in 3 straight games, he's going to have to do it as a solo. Doesn't have Surge to worry about, 354 above. Has to worry about just getting into zone, bypassing a lot of this chaos, instantly gets towards the front side. Huge amount for him, and I was thinking play a trivia game. When is Queasy and Vino going to take height? But I think now's the time. 6 moving zone, that's their cue. Revscar is going to have to follow suit. We talked about him being a solo, running out of resources, running out of builds. The inevitable is bound to happen. He has to look for a refresh.
Yeah, Revscar in dire straits right now. A big shot would be all he needs to sort of keep himself in this one. And the opportunities will be there. There's a play right in his box that he can't answer for. That just finds. That's going to take him out, Ludwig, in a very similar spot. But he does just need anything to keep him in this one. Of course, the hammer will allow him to survive a bit longer. But you can see who holds the keys to height. It's going to be Vino. It's going to be Queasy. Once again, we see them in this position. Last time we saw them here, they won a game, Jacob. They might be looking to do it again.
6 moving zone. For some, they think it's a gamble. For them, it's definitely calculated. Shimoki and Swizzy trying to get towards the front side yet again. Holding on to the front side, even if you don't have height, is going to be important. Beating all these teams there, being able to look back. Thomas, Malibuca trying to follow suit, gets coned for a second, but not too much to worry about. Immediately breaks through, but Thomas right now is separated from Malibuca. This could come tumbling down, just like Swizzy, all that chaos going around, instantly trying to shockwave out. The longer you stay in those chaotic situations, the harder it's going to be to stay alive.
Yeah, they need to find some space to breathe, a breath of fresh air in this region so far this season, but they need a breath of fresh air in this game. Ludwig, even alone, still wreaking havoc on the lobby, and those extra materials will go a long way. They're going to work wonders. A chance to hammer up above, and you can see here for Robot, no duo with him, but still a big force to be reckoned with. And no, Vino, he's now being knocked into the storm and looking to knock himself back into the zone, but he doesn't have Queasy with him anymore. And so all of a sudden, we need to see Queasy and Vino try their best in this one. It's all going to be in Vino's hands, though.
Just like Swizzy following suit, a lot of these teams losing their duo, left as a solo, and he quickly reacts to that one, shockwaving into a better position. Tayson and Merstash, they steal away high ground, thanks to the downfall of Queasy and Vino, but Vino's trying to stay alive. Consistency is key for a team like him, especially the way they started the day, but it's about maneuvering through, recycling a lot of the bills along with Ludwig. This is going to be a huge opportunity for him to hold on to that first place, even though Albi went down quite early.
Ludwig is no stranger to this moment, has to hit something big, looking, searching, waiting for his opportunity to strike. Is it going to come? Nebinator and Pink, though, they might stand in his way, and they will. Slove being the one to take Ludwig out. Neb and Pink, though, in the back of the zone, need to try to get in. But when they do, they're going to have Vino waiting for them here. You see him lining up the shot. He's already picked up one, and he's looking for more.
Huge find out of that tactical assault rifle. Thunder shotgun as well. A great recipe for success for a solo trying to get through boxes here towards the end game. Thomas, they turn towards the low ground along with Malibuca, trying to break through the bills. A lot of chaos is ensuing. They're under pressure, getting denied entry to the zone, but the zero chance augment playing a huge role for him to dash his way in.
Thomas is unleashing on the lobby right now. He's already picked up 3, but now with so little, can he continue to hit more? He might be exposed to height. No, he'll just go down to the storm, hammers himself way on out of it. And Malibuca now left to his own devices. What can he do?
And in comes the challengers. As Neb and Pink are on the low ground, they're trying to end these solos runs. Down goes Delay. Neb and Pink trying to do what they can, holding that ultimate low ground, running out of builds. Down goes Pink as well. Malibuca's a solo, trying to make some magic happen, shockwaving as high as he can go, dropping right back down low, knowing resources are not there to back up the situation. He's the only solo left in the game. 1v2, Malibuca versus Thomas. It's gonna be huge. Shockwaving, everything going around. Tayson goes up and over. They get the angle towards the front side, and they shoot him down from the sky. Malibuca tried everything that he had, but it wasn't enough to overcome the numbers of the superstars of EU.
Tayson and Merstash, I said it earlier in this game, that eventually they're going to roll up and pick up a victory royale. Little did I know it would be here in Game 4 that they do it. And a bit of sweet revenge there for Tayson and Merstash as they pick up Malibuca. Of course, when it comes to trio competitions, that's actually their teammate that they take down. But nevertheless, no friends in the industry, no friends in this game. They win it out. Victory royale, brilliantly done as well, up from above.
And the Titans have reclaimed the throne, the top spot. They said enough talk about these underdogs. We're here and we're here to stay. But where do they stand on the leaderboard after such a massive game?
Look at that.
Was that 10 eliminations to seal the deal with the victory royale?
Big shot there onto Malibuca at the end. Tayson and Merstash win Game 4. I love it. I'm a fan. Everybody, if you know me, you know how much I like to see Tayson do well, so I'm going to keep my mouth quiet before people call me biased. I'm very impressed, though. A big victory royale.
Yeah, but being impressed only means so much. You need to have that leaderboard placement to back it up, and only the analysts can break down where everybody stands.
You know, first off, before we get into anything, let me welcome our analyst for the second set of games. That's right, it's the best taco. It's Jenny Smiles. I feel like EU has been the story of like solos. It just seems like every time we look at a duo, it's always like someone's missing. They're left to fight on their own. Are you guys feeling like that's kind of what's happening here?
It's a little bit expected with how haphazard I think that the Shockwave Hammer has really just resulted in a lot of these individual scenarios coming to fruition. But on that same note, despite the fact that we're seeing so many solos from these duo pairings, we're still watching numerous clutch situations take place.
Yeah, like you just said, too, those clutches are so important, too. If you're a solo in endgame, you're just thinking, I don't really care as much about eliminations. I just need to have a good placement there. So it's just so important to make sure that they can be aware of their surroundings and make very vital movements and get that placement.
And I think as far as Thomas, HD, and Malabuka were concerned here, they got caught up in a lot of this congestion in the low ground because of the control that we saw from Tayson and Merstash up on the height layer. Unfortunately, Thomas and Malabuka, they were just too busy trying to maneuver their way. And the worst part about playing on this low ground in the late game scenario is that you don't know which build is actually going to have somebody hiding behind it. And ultimately for Thomas, a bit unfortunate there at the end with that Shockwave out into the zone, but ultimately still a great performance, I think, from those two.
That hammer is it's so good, but it is also so back and forth sometimes. Like when you hit it, you're like, am I gonna go completely out of the storm? Was it the perfect hit? So it was so back and forth, and that was, it was just an unfortunate little event right there.
That's right. Now we turn our attentions here to the standings. We got to see how things are shaking out. Remember, we only have 2 games left to go here in week number 2. Albie and Ludwig still sitting pretty comfortable, right? Sitting at the top. But Merstash, Tayson, they have something to say about that.
Hey, match and points right there. You can see it. It's definitely looking so good, up 3 points. And again, I just think you'll see Tayson and Merstash continuously do so well and thrive in game this week. It's going to be great.
Obviously, yeah, placement points are definitely important, but as far as Merstash and Tayson are concerned, when they were able to overtake that height layer, initially we saw Queasy and Vino up at the start of the first moving zone. That was 6th zone, but Tayson, Merstash, as soon as they were able to control this high ground, again, there's just so much congestion actually taking place on a lot of these low layers. No one really had an opportunity to actually look up and do anything about these two controlling height. Even when they ran relatively low on builds, we saw Tayson there at the end with only 1, but again, when you have everybody trapped underneath, you're able to easily sandwich them, and I think that that was just the performance that you kind of expect from such an experienced duo.
That's right. We keep turning our attention. I mean, look at all of this. This is shifted up and down, and these little placement markers are still helpful, right? To just tell us how many placements people are moving up and down these standings. Now, with only 2 games left to go, I'm looking at people like Seti and Cammy, right? Duos I would have expected to just be sitting somewhere in your top 3, but they're actually getting forced down. EU is extremely chaotic here in week number 2.
Yeah, so again, like you said, that was where my eyes were set too, but they're playing so consistent. That's what's really important. You see, like, they're making the moves, they're making plays, they're very smart and tactical, and that's where you're gonna see they're gonna make sure that they're in top 10. But then you also see you have your standings for 11 through 20, and those teams are gonna be saying, all right, I want to get to that top 10. How can I make that happen? So it's gonna be slight adjustments. Again, you can see some of these teams up 10 plus points. So that will just continuously go up.
I think part of the reason why we're seeing duos like Seti and Cammy, who are notorious for being such consistent performance, struggle here is because of the fact that the Shockwave Hammer, again, it's such a volatile meta that we're not really seeing consistency in terms of placement be the real reigning factor here. It's actually those individual pop-off performances. And what I mean, like, duos having their individual standout games, because Alvi Ludwig, I think, are a perfect example. I mean, they've got 28 elims, and I think are a huge part of the reason why they find themselves first as far as in-game points and placement points are concerned. But again, we're seeing other duos also rise to the occasion, and Pink and Nebs are one that definitely come to mind.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that they're performing so well, and like you said, just making sure that you're taking care of Surge in the beginning of games, making sure that you can have smart rotations end game is just going to set you up for such success. And again, holding on to like the weapons that are going to get you through those builds, get quick little eliminations, those extra points all matter so much.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the talk of EU is going to continue to be adaptability, right? These duos that are shifting, making those adjustments they need to, are going to be moving up the standings, and there's only 2 games left to go. We actually got a sneak peek there. 20th place, Firehunter and Grolls. We looked at those series point leaderboards coming into today, and they were on the bubble, and now they're thinking, with only this week, 2 games left, next week, 6 games there, we have to perform well if we want to make it.
Hey, we're past the halfway point, so it's time to see who can finish strong.
That's right. Well, hey, I know what y'all want. Y'all want more games. All right, let's get into it then. We ain't got to wait much longer with 2 games left to go. Who's going to make it in that top 10? This is game number 5.
Game number 5, the penultimate game. One of the last chances these duos will have today to make their mark, to stake their claim, gain some serious points and make it to the FNCS final.
Yeah, and for some, it's a crucial moment in their journey because Zeke talked about it. Being on the bubble going into that final week is not a position any team really wants to see themselves, because that's not a feeling of comfortability. You're really going to have to dig deep into your pockets. And with game number 5 ready, the time is now.
The players have got to dig deep into their bags and whip out an absolute masterclass. The time is now. All the eyes are watching. Who will it be? Of course, to start off any game, the most important thing is always these battles off spawn. Northwest all the way to the southeast is where the bus will go. We've seen a similar bus path already today, so one thing that we can guarantee is that there will be a fight here at Breakwater Bay, where Vortexes is ready and waiting with a shotgun. And it doesn't seem like Pixie has much to fight with at all. Does have a pistol, but it's no match for what Vortexes is carrying. And so they already have the advantage. Delay now is going to have to pull up something special in a 1v2 here. They're trying to use the Falcon Scout just to figure out where he is. And even though it doesn't spot him, at least they know now that he is probably on the other side of Breakwater. Over at Slappy though, Jacob.
Yep. Slappy, Kylie, and Vico are out for revenge, and already it's looking to be a little bit fruitful. They get that first elimination on the tilter and leaving Helix by himself, but Kylie goes down, so it's definitely down to a 1v1. Vico versus Helix. On the other side of Slappy, they're just looting up, waiting for them to kind of clean up the scrambles of this one. But 1v1, Helix now knocking at the door. The piece control is not his, so he has to be very, very careful. Playing mind game of sorts to figure out, is he going to break through? Is he going to wait for the peak? Resources are not there, and they end up box to box, toe to toe, and it's Vico who comes out on top.
Vico in close quarter combat is always going to be someone you expect to come out on top. The German is so prolific in those kind of fights.
Immediately just leaves. He knows the threat looming towards North Slappy. And there goes Vico's first elimination with the machine SMG, finding a Maven elsewhere. I like the attempt. I like the aggression coming out from Helix, especially with how their day has been going. Hats off to him, though.
And back to Breakwater Bay, where we already saw Pixie get picked up. I don't think he knows. I don't think he knows Delay is right there behind that tree. He doesn't. And Delay, very patient, but unfortunately does get spotted out, and so that will be the end of him.
I love the patience right there. Try to turn it around. But now Axe Force, Vortexers, they get themselves a Shockwave Hammer. They got themselves early game Surge. A great setup for success is POTUSI and an X Squeeze. They didn't find that early game elimination, but they did push that team off. Making sure that all that loot is theirs, and you keep it kind of splitting up, spreading out, making sure they get as much as they can from Brutal Bastion before they find themselves outward. Goals and Fire Hunter probably doing the same on that side as Merstash and Tayson rotating. It looks like they're actually looking for Vico here. They know that fight did go down. They saw the eliminations pop up in the feed. They're just trying to figure out where in the world is Vico.
That's what we're all wondering, right? Where in the world is Vico? And will he be able to survive against a team that has the hot hand right now? Coming off of that victory Royale, I'm sure they'll be looking for more. Whether or not they do, though, they've definitely already solidified a spot high up in the standings. So that allows them to just sort of play it freely, a bit more loose, not as tense as maybe they would have been a couple games ago.
Well, you know what Fred Nex was thinking, going up and over. But when you have the confidence, when you have the hot hand, can't really bet against you. As Marius now just trying to think of what am I going to do? How am I going to get him back? He asked the question of where is Vico? Well, found him sitting in the bush, just waiting, fighting for time. And you can already see through his mini-map, the zone pulling a little bit to his north, a little bit towards his west. So that's a little bit of a great sign for him, knowing that Tayson and Merstash, the contested players on the other side, are eventually going to have to rotate in that direction, which will allow him to possibly get that reboot and the card back on up, getting his teammate back into the game.
Albi and Ludwig, still the team to beat right now. And for good reason, their play has been very impressive today.
Averaging just under 9 eliminations through the first 3 games. Only picking up 2 in that last game. Trying to play more consistent over everything else. They've got the points throughout their first 3 games to really allow them to switch up their play style, be a little bit more flexible in the moves that they want to make, along with Seti and Cammy here. Slow to start the day in terms of eliminations, but they ramp it up as the day goes on as Charlie and Gitter has returned to the scene of the crime. Mara's trying to go for the reboot, and that's going to be a mistake he's going to regret here in the 5th game. They go back to the lobby, and they have plenty of time to think before that 6th and final game starts.
Yeah, they made quick work of that. Both attacking from different sides. You don't know where to look. And then they strike rather cleanly. Vico, though, still waiting in this bush. And the coast is definitely not clear because there are players in this vicinity that he has to sort of wait out. He'll be hoping that nobody wants to check this bush.
Could be a possibility later on in the game. The time is definitely ticking for him. The fall from grace from Vino and Queasy, starting the game off hot in first place. Slowly but surely slipping down, but that's not too much to worry about. At least for me, these guys are experts. They know how to turn it on at a moment's notice as Vico finally gets spotted out. And now going gets tough, 1v2 situation, not a ton of resources to work with. Trying to use that bush to his main advantage there on the low ground. And you can see his opponents trying to hold on to the position up high. Zangi and Zara bouncing around, taking multiple angles, closing in on Vico. And you can see them passing around the Shockwave Hammer. And you got to imagine they're just trying to break through the builds, use their numbers here to their advantage.
On the offensive. Playing it incredibly aggressive, trying to just control space, control pieces. That's not going to play to Vico's favor. Needs to put on his best defensive fighting performance we've seen in a while. The trading shots there isn't too bad, but ultimately will be overwhelmed.
Unfortunate for him. He goes down, back to the lobby. The off-spawn fights really almost proving not to be worth for them. Obviously, Vino and Queasy getting busy, trying to take advantage of an early game fight as Chadas and Giris. They were the ones that kind of took down that solo. I was going to say, are they going to chase him? But my answer, or my question was quickly answered there. Not letting any points slip through their hands.
Even though they're not in first, I will always continue to call these guys the lobby bosses. They just roll up and things never seem to go well for whoever it is they are aggressing.
That's the thing, though. As long as they're within reach, they're always a threat to the rest of the lobby. About, 100 points, give or take. Not exact, but give or take. So these last 2 games mean so much for them and trying to boost up the leaderboards. Just Tayson and Mustache finding that team on the outskirts of Slappy. They're trying to get it aggressive while they can, while no other teams are looming in the distance, threatening to third parties. Zangi's the one that's under the most pressure from Tayson. Mustache is going to go fly on the other side, takes a few tags himself. It does look like they're going to attempt to disengage, but only long enough for them to try to gatekeep and hold this team out.
We have Vivid once again here to give us an update on some of the things we've missed. Vivid, what's been going on?
Albi has been building a giant storm surge base to make sure he and his duo are ready to take on the end game. But I also want to talk about the impact that this can actually have on the lobby. If you take a look at the map, they're going to be building this on the south side of this northern pooling zone. Any of these teams that are to the south are going to have to completely avoid this base and either go to the east or the west. We'll have to see how that impacts lobby and where the aggression comes in.
And that's been part of the keys of them being successful in these games. And by doing that, by building up that base and almost deterring those teams, they're almost creating their own dead side, right? Making it so that the area is less congested and makes their rotation towards that second zone all the more easier as they move on through. For Pink and Neb, here, they have a long, long ways to go. The zone pulls all the way towards the northwest. And so a max distance zone. Not necessarily max distance for Tayson and Mustache, but still quite a ways to go.
They just have Surge to back up this rotation. It's been a great ingredient for the recipe for success. You see Bridled and CZB end up in a box-to-box fight. One's gonna go down. 2v1 situation. Shockwave hammers directly into the box, and honestly, these are those situations. You're outside of zone. You're really thinking you have an isolated fight. You try to take advantage. It just doesn't go your way, and then you have Bridal Squash, who gets both of those eliminations, and really nothing to worry about from him from this point, probably to the mid game. They don't have to worry about Surge. They just got to focus on their rotation.
That's a dream scenario. Cammy and Seti, they've been looking really good this tournament. Even with some of the underperformances leading up to the FNCS Major, many of the pundits in the scene always said, look, regardless of how they perform in tournaments leading up to it, when it comes to the actual Major, these two will always step up. And I think that definitely has reigned true. They'll continue to impress, continue to make it deep into games, and maybe pick up a couple big victory royales along the way. They certainly did in week 1. They'll look to do the same here in week 2. For more action here at Brutal Bastion, Fire Hunter and Grows in the thick of it.
Looks like Fire Hunter might even be saving an augment. He didn't activate it. You saw him pull it out, look at his options, and saving it for later in the game. Almost leaves me wondering the options he could have. Probably a forecast, jelly angler, something that he's waiting to use later on the game to where it's actually useful. It's him and Grolls are towards the low ground, biding time. Cheating and Flixie, probably waiting for them to get impatient, drop into their box, and probably use that as an advantage in this fight, as Flixie's just trying to take the pieces away from above. A little bit of a slow fight, though. I don't think any one of these teams really want to make that daring play. Everything that they have in their 5th game, knowing that there's only 2 more chances here to pick up the pace and get as many points as you can.
Flixie and Cheating, they start to make their move. And if they can get ahead of these teams rotating in, they'll just be able to sit there and hold them, cause issues for them, make their lives difficult as they rotate through. And that's exactly what they'll want to do. It would be the right play. Thomas and Malabuka still needs to deal some damage for Surge. But that is what you want out of Thomas HD. Sitting in positions like this, hitting shots, he definitely is no stranger to it.
An anomaly of a performance last week for Thomas and Malabuka. Definitely have woken up, playing more like themselves this time around. Shimoki and Swizzy tagging up a player. 62 shields ripped right off, helping their case when it comes to Storm Surge. They still got some more traveling to do, so you got to be careful not to overstep, not get too antsy, especially with another team looming in the distance. If you don't watch out, you don't be careful, you might force them into a fight, and you can just be the team really just taking advantage of the situation. As the shots continue to fire off from Swizzy, forcing these players closer and closer together. And I think the deed has been done. 197 below the damage threshold. They forced them close enough to where Cosmo and Jay are now getting into the box. 125 shields, followed up a 30 wide HP, just getting drained off of him in the blink of an eye. Excalibur rifle trying to get stuck in there. Any damage is better than none. Forcing out the splashes, the instant heals, which is going to be important for this fight. And you can see them still below on the Storm Surge. 21 to be exact, which isn't much, but as they continue to fall, it's now ticking, doing damage. So they got to close in and finish this fight sooner rather than later.
Yeah, just taking a moment to use some chug splashes. They want to get right in. Of course, they're down with Surge, but they are hitting some shots when the opportunity arises. But they do need to get in, and hopefully fast. Need to start dealing damage. Can they break their way through?
And right now, their opponents don't even know they're getting tagged up by Surge until the shields get cracked. And there you go. There goes the signal. Jay's trying to back up. Down goes Cosmo. Down goes Jay. They're unable to survive. While CZB and Bridal Squash get both of those eliminations. Really proven that they are here to stay along with Albi and Ludwig. 281 points. For them, it's all about making it past that mid-game, entering towards the end game. That's where they fell short in that last one, and they're not looking to have that repeat happen.
Ludwig and Albi, we saw how far of a zone they had to traverse. You can see them crowded around a couple different teams. That leads to success. Wow, cheating. Big shot there.
Hyrax went down to the zone directly after. Flixie and Chieftain keep their show on the road. They know they have some rotations to do. See one massive tower in the sky. Instead of risking it going up or mountain, contesting them. They're just immediately trying to find that safe passage through. And for Albi and Ludwig, it's about taking that static launch pad. Once again, using environmental cover to their advantage, but only so much. As Albi goes through unscathed, Ludwig taking a lot of the damage, dropped down to 7 HP, trying to go deep as he can, trying to regenerate health, and you see Albi stopping short to try to relieve some of that pressure. A huge amount of teamwork, and those unspoken acts between two players that take time to develop, but a team this new are wasting no time building that chemistry.
Thomas in a sticky situation. Malabuka has fallen, so it's all up to him. Not how they would have wanted things to go, but nevertheless, he has to play the cards he's been dealt. Quite a journey to make it into zone, but the hammer will speed that up tenfold. The question is, when he gets into zone, how is he able to play things out? It's going to be difficult as a solo from this point in the game. The Buell now in a fight against Queasy and Veno. Don't think I'd envy anybody in that situation. And with his teammate Vexy already down, he has to come up big if there's any hope of him getting anything out of this game. If I was him, I'd just disengage completely, look to try to play as a solo, let them have Vexy's body, because that's ultimately what they want, more so than even picking up his limb. If they could pick him up, that would be an added bonus, but the body will suffice.
They're center zone right now. They do have some time to work with before everybody else in the lobby begins to make their own journey in. One other team a little bit north, but they're preoccupied as well, trying to get some extra loot. A launch pad they could possibly use for the half-half, moving zones depending on what comes their way. Everybody else now, you can see in the minimap, beginning to shockwave in, closing in on the distance. You don't want to be the last one there, especially in these north zones where the elevations are just so drastically different from one another.
Looking at Thomas. Down to almost nothing here in this game. A one splash will get him up a bit, but no builds, no materials, no teammate. And as good of a player as he is, even some things may be too difficult for the mighty Thomas HD. Looking to get into a box, if he's able to pick this limb up, it would solidify why he's considered one of the best in the world. Unfortunately, though, Rifty had all the answers. He was ready and waiting. Tasting a mustache, they're still in this one. A potential back-to-back victory out for them.
Uh-oh.
We're yet to see it today.
They're down on Surge. Not something I would expect to see at this stage in the game for a team of this caliber. Only 98 below, though. Not too much to worry about. Tagging up a player just a little bit, knowing their job is not done just yet. Nev trying to stay alive. Pink under pressure. He's trying to hold the walls, and Mustache is this far low, this far separated from the rest of the lobby. This is the best chance they're going to get to gather the Surge in a safe manner. Box to box, wall to wall, 117. Huge tag, edits through. Down goes Pink. It's all up to Nevs here, as Mustache doing a good job of holding onto the walls. Tayson with the additional angle, going to take down Nev as well. The full duo gone and eliminated back to the lobby.
That's two of our top teams there, going head-to-head. That's 2 out of the top 3 from last game, right? Nebs obviously carried his team to third in that one, so again, big hitters fighting it out.
Down goes Seti as well. Cammy's stuck being the hero. He hasn't been eliminated just yet, so anything can happen, along with Savage and Eye Drop.
There he goes.
Progressively getting better each and every single week, and it did look like Seti got taken down. Cammy just trying to outlast this pressure right now, building up. Shockwave Hammer even recycling some of these builds, but they're finding him. There's nowhere he can go. They're not letting him escape. But the reload is all it's going to take. They're just probably trying to time it right. You see them on the other side of that cover. Bridal Squad and CZB. If they know he's there, if they know he's a solo, you know as well as I do, they're going to go. Especially this separated outside of the zone.
And what a zone we do have here. Another potential game for Albi and Ludwig to increase their lead. How dominant have they been today? And Mythic Pistol coming in clutch. Still need to do a fair bit of damage. Still want to have some peace of mind in this game. But again, with that Mythic Pistol, it's not going to be impossible. Looking to try to use those old builds there. When the zone starts to pull towards it a bit more, they can use that impulse grenade just to get up there. Snazy and Anderlecht down below. And still knocking on the door of the top 10. If there was ever a time to start pushing their way on in, it would be these last 2 games.
Oh. On the other wall, piece control going on over. Edits in. Tries to go for the shot. Not going to find any success there. It's almost as if they can smell how weak CZB actually is. Probably under 10 HP. Living on a prayer. Hoping that his teammate stays in his box so they can't break through. Swizzy on the other side along with Shimoki. Everybody really jam-packed this close like a can of sardines. One mistake, one bad play can really cost you everything. It does look like that lone solo is just going to bounce through and get out alive. Doesn't know the pressure he just escaped getting out when he did.
Vino and Queasy, a big chance for them in this game to start to close the gap, push their way up in the standings just that bit more. Of course, they started off today in first place, and it's been a while since they've been able to hold that title. Stash and Tayson, they're looking to close the gap between them and first place. One of the few teams that could do it in this game potentially. If Albi, another big word to fall, but they have to have a big game themselves. You see Albi all the way up there on height, still towards the backside, just to pick people off who maybe are caught sleeping. And then anybody who wants to take height is going to have to deal with them, and it might be that first place team. Albi and Ludwig, they look for it for a moment, but it's Queasy and Vino up here who will say, no, 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 you stay down below. They are the current holders of height. Cammy, again, still as a solo, and he has to have a big game.
Whew. Takes a big tag, added on top of that, 83 HP. Trying to get to the front side of zone, moment to stabilize, pop those minis, getting himself back up to tip-top shape. Barely above the damage threshold, so he's just looking to outlast a lot of the opponents that might go down to Surge. Flixie cheating under pressure. Cheating's going to go down. Flixie trying to get out, going towards the backside of zone, but the icy floor slipping around. Flixie trying to minimize the movements. Edit through, takes a cheeky shot on the Ludwig. Albi, but it's not going to be enough. Switches on over to Shockwave Hammer, trying to get above elevation while he has time on his side.
Ludwig and Albi, they are starting to cook up. We know what they can do. They've been showing off all day long. The zone is starting to move up this hill, so you're seeing players being proactive, taking the initiative to start moving upwards early. If you're the likes of Flixie, no, you can't quite, but that was a big shot there from a distance. Making use of that shotgun range, nevertheless he falls. Cammy still in this one though, even as a solo, he's making things happen, he's making things work, and he's gonna keep on moving. Needs to be careful though, bounces himself out. That Shockwave Hammer can be hard to tame, but finally making his way in.
Barely living on a prayer right here, letting these players that are near him shockwave to the front side of zone. He knows he got some more traveling to do. Almost takes the damage to Storm. Right on the edge of that one. Shimoki and Swizzy, 5 eliminations as well. Have the Shockwave Hammer. They're trying to optimize the amount of uses they actually get out of the charge, using teamwork to make the dream work, immediately trying to run and get to that front side of zone, but they're running out of resources, they're running out of builds, they need to look back, and that's exactly why they're spotting out X-Squeeze and Podesai, trying to put the pressure there, but not taking too much time. They know the journey is to the center is not done just yet.
Vino and Queasy though, still cooking up a meal. They are here to feast on the rest of the lobby. Up above, in the sky so high, players down beneath them need to beware, because if Vino starts dropping down, there's no reason to not be scared. This is one of the best fraggers we've ever seen. Ardy down below, trying to make something happen. And what he'll do is he'll move to the front, where he can stay a bit more quiet, a bit more inconspicuous. He doesn't look too out of place. Shimoki and Swizzy, they'll start to make their way there now as well. But they're waiting for someone like a Rescott to just walk into their box so they can capitalize, and that's exactly what they'll do. They pick him up, and Hellfire is going to look to follow his tracks, maybe get some revenge if he can. Needs to be careful, and opts to just use the hammer to get us to safety.
Oh, but he's bouncing all around the mountain. Down goes Hellfire. Into the top 7 we go, though. Shimoki and Swizzy trying to steal away the high ground as the zone moves down elevation. They know they don't have plenty of builds to work with, so they have to go and scavenge for everything that they can. 5 builds. And you can see Swizzy just trying to pass everything over, using this moment right now. Does he get the res off? That's the question we're going to be asking ourselves, as Albi somehow, some way, as a solo, is fighting himself toward this end game, spotting down low, doesn't get the shot on Shimoki, and it backfires. He takes him down in the end.
But he's done more than enough in this game. Just staying alive that long is exactly what they needed. And Squeeze and Podesai, they maybe want another LLM another victory royale. They've already won one today. They've shown they can do it. And they're up against a team who has done it today as well. Both of these teams looking to pick up their second victory of the day. Paco is the only thing stopping them, and he will eventually be dealt with. And so now in the final 2v2, who will pick up victory royale number 2 of the day? Queasy and Venom in top form so far in this game, using height to their advantage, but the shockwave hammer comes out, and the final shots have to be connected, and they're doing a brilliant job, and they will pick it up. Vino, Queasy, pick up another one.
Throughout all that madness and chaos, shockwave hammers causing all that destruction, they kept their eye on the prize, only dropping down low when needed, and to seal the deal. The consistency is real, and the domination over EU is coming to fruition for Queasy and Vino.
In the words of Vino himself, zone equals win. When it's anywhere near this north side of the map, you've always got to think that they're going to be a big threat. Look at this here. Brilliant stuff from Vino at the end. That's exactly what you love to see him doing. I'm impressed. Queasy and Lavino looking good.
Yeah, and a lot of our top teams in general really making it towards that end game. I saw Albie slithering himself in there. Yeah. But the question is, who got first? With so many of our top contenders making it to the end game, finding plenty of eliminations, I don't even know what to expect at this point.
Hey, look, I know who knows what to expect.
Who knows?
I know who knows. It's going to be the analyst. Zeke, take it away.
Thank you guys so much. Only a single game left to go. I don't know what, I'm telling you, every time we're here, I just blink and the game's just gone, which makes me really sad because I just want to hang out more and watch more Fortnite. But Queasy, Vino, a huge game. Who knew? They just needed to both be alive.
It basically was a Cinderella story from start to finish for Queasy and Vino, because this zone alone, the way that it pulled so far north, practically in their own backyard from their initial drop spot, so it gave them ample opportunity, ample time to just collect resources, have max mats. I believe by the time it even entered that first moving zone, they already had established a relatively large area as far as what they were building out, make sure to box out. And we also saw Vino take an ample opportunity to kind of monitor that low ground, make sure nobody was coming in and out. And the same thing for Queasy, where he kept coverage on the ground above.
Yeah, and again, too, this being so close to where they drop is so great because, like you said, like, they don't have to travel far, they don't have to use the resources, they don't have to use their mats, none of that. And again, too, you get to see, you know, they're not going to have to take fights where they end up as a solo. They got to be together as a duo this end game, and them together, again, we just said they're just a powerhouse. I mean, it's such an amazing duo. I was like, before they even won, I was like, they got this in the bag. So they get that win, and it's just amazing.
I mean, they're very good at setting the tempo of any match that they're in, right? They're a lot. Everyone else is like, yeah, we're playing Fortnite. Like, yeah, go left. And they go left. And you're like, all right, well, we won the game already. We take a look here at the standings. Remember, we're playing for a total of series points here at the end of the 3 weeks right now. All these duos looking to place as high as possible. Albie, Ludwig, I guess they're just going to stay here all the way throughout the rest of the day. They've been holding on strong. But as we start to kind of look down the list, look at all the changes of Queasy and Vino finally with that game of victory out. And it's kind of like interesting to think that after 2 games of like solo play, they just needed that one game, and now they're back up in the top 3.
It seems as though the circumstances have been switched, though, for Albie and Ludwig, because we have actually seen them for not only this match, but the past one as well, where they've been put into these individual circumstances. And it's never easy when you lose your duo, especially once you start getting into that moving zone territory. But at the same time, I think that what we witnessed the most from Albie and Ludwig was just a lot of discipline. They weren't looking to really rush into uncharted territory. And what I mean by that is that they knew that they were going to have to try and play out the low ground as soon as they lost their duo mate. And I think it's just really crucial to keep that accountability, keep your senses strong, and not basically lose track of where everybody else is in the lobby.
Yeah, just like you said, that making sure that you're aware and having that placement, like, they're not going to put themselves in a bad position being a solo, and they did that so well. You can see too, I feel like a lot of times in EU, like we saw a lot in NA, but like EU, now I'm seeing like there's a lot of solo plays that they're learning, okay, I want to play this out well if I want to have a good placement at the end, you know?
That's right. Taking a look again, Seti and Cammy, they continue to fall down the leaderboards. Even people like Pink and Nebs, right? There's a lot of these high-profile duos in EU that we're kind of like used to seeing in the FNCS, but something's not clicking, right? What do you guys think is happening?
Partially, I think, due to the fact that we have seen a decent amount of the zones pulling a little bit towards that fourth and third section, and because there are duos like Queasy and Vito, like Podesai and Squeezy, that have control coming in from that south. Well, for PotaSci and Sweezy, they're south of Brutal Bastion, but it's still difficult, I think, for duos like Seti and Cammy to make those rotations upwards from their initial drop spot, because you have to deal with such experienced duos that it makes it very difficult to actually sneak by without losing a lot of resources and having to expend a lot of your shields.
Yeah, and like you said, having some of these teams building up and having just like a castle of their own, and they're like, you're not coming this way, I'm taking over this entire area. You have to expend so many mats if you're going to make those like rotations and such, so it's just crazy. And again, too, look here, we see this mythic pistol being used. I just want to point that out again because it's so new into like coming in. We saw so many of the SMG being used, but the pistol is just so amazing. The SMG, again, is still being used, but that pistol is crazy, is not, Taco?
No, it definitely is. And I think for PotaSci and Sweezy specifically, because of the fact that they've had a tendency to win out from their drop spot, because being in that southern section of Brutal Bastion, they're able to push against JJ2 and Glebshy, and it's just working out great.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the meta continues to change here in EU game to game. I'm telling you, though, pistols, like Jenny said, that's where it's at.
Crazy. What's
going
on?
NA East was already like, no, we're here. We all know pistols for everybody. EU maybe a little bit changing. Maybe EU's just everyone's too good that like no one wants to make that mistake, and they're just like, hey, pistol, and everyone's like, no, I'm gonna take what I'm used to using, right? Like, I don't know. But hey, we got one game left to go. We hope you guys are enjoying all of the action. So, for one last time here in EU, the last ride of the day. Take it away, Jacob PR, 112K.
The final game of the day. Your last chance to make something happen in EU. A big moment, but there are big name players ready to strike.
Yeah, you can either go for the bragging rights, get first place on the day, or more importantly, gather those series points to go directly into the grand finals, because I'm not one to want to have to play through a surge rig. That's why I'm here on the stage.
Fair enough, right? Fair enough. I think that's more, there's more to it than why you're there. But what I will say about these players competing in this last game is that we have seen some top-level performances. I think the biggest surprise of the day for me so far, seeing Sweezy and Shamoki, we wondered, they were doing it in Elite Cups. Can you come from Asia to EU and perform? They have.
Yeah, very few players that can say they've dominated on multiple regions, and for them taking home that championship at the end of the day will be huge. And luckily for us, game number 6 is ready. We don't have to wait long to find out the conclusion of who's going to take home that first place prize.
A big moment is on the horizon. Who will be victorious in this game? The final bus drop of the day, of the weekend. Pink and Nebinator, a duo who I'm a big personal fan of, and I've finally had the chance to show what they can do, and it's been rather impressive. A bit higher in the leaderboards earlier in some of the games, but here in game number 6, a chance to start to get back up into that top 5 area.
But one of the most exciting ones that we do like to see, Maiza and Voltiax 2v2 against Hardfind and Mighty Pelican, and oh my gosh, he makes that an easy find. Shockwave Hammer right out of the gates. Tactical pistol, Machine SMG, and he's on the hunt, he's on the chase. Half HP disappears right before our very eyes on Maiza. Splashes coming out. Levin, I'm scared. I'm shaking for him right now.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be scared as well. Now that they realize what they're up against. Creating so much space with that hammer, just completely destroying their cover and making it look easy. Hardfind and Mighty Pelican will win this fight, and they win on the day here at this POI. Things are looking good.
With the amount that's on the line right now, you can see Kylie and Vico out for revenge. Taking out both Helix and Tilturn. Back to the lobby they go. Their run in week number 2 of the FNCS qualifiers comes to an end. Hopefully they've garnered enough points to gather as many series points as possible, because they could be one of those teams that are looming on the bubble, trying to fight for their way directly to the finals. Just like Albi and Ludwig. One of those teams, man, they're so high up on the leaderboard, they can only go down at this point.
And I think when it comes to this team and what they've been able to accomplish today, they have definitely put the rest of the region on notice. It's one of the better teams so far this season. A big performance like this starts to improve the prospects in all aspects compared to Fortnite. Over here at Anvil Square, though, Mr. Savage and iDrop need to try win this fight once again.
They've done a good job of slowing down JD2 and Glubshy throughout their performance. Last week, throughout the 2 days of qualifiers to get to this point, this is looking like one of the favorite teams really to perform at a high level. As iDrop trying to take advantage, the additional angle is going to be there. The information being shared over by Mr. Savage. He's finally going to be able to get out of escape as iDrop's going to slow it down. Regroup here with Savage, figuring out how they're going to attack this situation yet again. JJ2 trying to fight back. Piece Control going through a huge tag to back down Mr. Savage. Stabilizing themselves in this situation, biding some time. As you see iDrop just trying to go for that other angle. But this is the one thing that only makes me worry about iDrop and Mr. Savage, the way they're fighting this right now. They're fighting it as two different solos from two different directions. JJ2 and Glubshy at a moment's notice could turn, try to W key into one of these players' boxes and try to take the numbers game while they can. But I think Mr. Savage and iDrop, they kind of realize the situation. They're slowing down their aggression, trying to regroup. Like we talked about, Falcon Scout trying to reveal the position of where these players are exactly at. Huge amount of information, which will allow them, honestly, to kind of rethink the whole strategy of how they're fighting this.
And look, big props to Mr. Savage and iDrop today. Done a brilliant job against Glubshy and JJ2, of course. Glubshy and JJ2, they came fourth last week, right? So they are no easy opponents by any means, but Savage and iDrop have just been so relentless, so comfortable here in this fight at Amble Square, and hopefully I don't jinx it here. We're in this fight. Savage needs to farm up a bit. Of course, a big day for him, announcing his new home, new organization. I'm sure we'll see that in his name next weekend, assuming they make it here again.
Perfect usage and perfect timing. Mr. Savage pulling off the Falcon Scout. As soon as they were going to try to push iDrop, he immediately was able to spot him out, but didn't get it that second time around. The trade's going to come through. Down goes iDrop, down goes JJ2. Glubshy versus Mr. Savage, where Glubshy is getting to get the leading end, but a huge shot from Mr. Savage himself. Back to back.
Wow.
That's why they signed him. You called him out. They said, we need that type of talent a part of our team.
Mr. Savage is special. A phenomenal player, and it's a reason why thousands and thousands flock to watch him whenever he plays and streams, because that level of talent is constantly on display. 200 IQ, Mr. 200 IQ himself.
It's scary how long he's been this good.
Since the beginning. Back when I was a comp player. So you know it's ancient times.
Long ago. Back when you were my height even.
Maybe not that far back.
Was that third grade? Second grade?
About 9 years old, probably, yeah.
I'll get there. I got a 5-year plan. Maris and Fred next, they got a plan of their own. And that plan is just loot up. Gather as many of the resources as possible. They know that team below them is not going anywhere, and if they do, they're going to get the information sooner rather than later. As Vino and Queasy. Business as usual. Loot up, uncontested, far out in the lands. And they get zoned. So you know what Vino says, this could be a repeat.
Hey, when they get North Zones, they usually do seem to win, it feels like. Ooh. And they don't get North Zones often. Diox and White out there in this final game. Again, it is that final game, right? So when you see a team or a player go down, that is it, right? They gotta, you know, go have their Sunday roast, their Sunday dinner, and forget about it, because it is over.
Just stings that much more. Because in the other games, just like you're saying, you're like, okay, we can go again. All right, these are the adjustments you're going to make. This time around, you got to wait a whole week to even have that plan be possible. And you got to qualify to get there. Massetti and Cammy doing what they do best. Passive. Looking for that early game surge. Setting themselves up for a nice spot before they build their tower high in the sky. Luckily for them, they don't got too much rotating to go, unlike some of these other teams. Talk about not rotating, talk about towers high in the sky. Queasy and Vino are building a skyscraper unlike ever before seen in the game so far. Spotting Grolls out into the distance. And I don't like the look of this for Grolls as he gets spotted out. Vino is going to go ahead and use that shockwave hammer, try to close the distance. You see Grolls about facing. He's trying to run, reunite with Fire Hunter over towards Brutal Bastion. And I think that's going to be a success for them. They just escaped treacherous waters.
Treacherous indeed. You saw the intention from Vino there. Just whipped out that hammer. Very, very scary sight. The growls. For Watson, Robot. They're in the midst of a fight here. One of the teams that's sort of been middling in the standings. A big last game here would do wonders for them. What can Robot do? Trying to take control of the pieces here. Wasn't quite able to get the walls he wanted to at the right times. But if he can, Asa is going to be in top aimers. But needs some mats right now. They aren't working with much.
I like how aware Robot was seeing that third party come in. He could have easily stayed being aggressive there in that situation.
I just called him top aimers and he's whiffed every shot. Come on, bro. You're not making me look good here, Robot. Come on.
He needs to update the firmware. He doesn't have the latest update. He's still on 2.0. He needs to go to 2.1.
Fair play, fair play, fair play. Look, there's been a lot going on so far this game, and in game number 6, to fill us in for the last time, we got Vivid here on the sidelines. Vivid, hit us with it.
Game 6, the name of this game will be the chase between third and second place. See if they can catch up with first place, Albi and Ludwig. Of course, we have Podesai going to be in second place, and then also to tune in with Vina, kind of update you guys on the loot, how both of these teams are doing. Last game, will they be able to catch it? They're both around 30 points behind. We'll have to see what they can do.
That battle between those two teams is one that we will pay very close attention to throughout this game. Of course, all these players playing desperately to try and get as much series points as possible. So you want to get the one up on a team.
He continues to pull north. Easy and Vino's dream is Giddis and Chardy are trying to back up. They realize they got one down, so all the timing is theirs for the taking. Just trying to play with the visual audio that most players play with right now. Hear it going off, trying to break into the box. Piece control going on over. That's going to be an easy cleanup for them. Down goes at least one, but a huge shot's going to be traded off. Chari takes a massive amount of damage, but they're able to clean up the elimination nonetheless. And they do so before the shots come firing in. That timing was impeccable.
Max damage from Chari. What a shot. For Nebunator and Pink, a fight way deep into the storm and nowhere near the safe zone. Remember, zone is all the way at the very, very north of the map, the most northern point you can be. And they are all the way here still in the southeast along this shore. And that's some of the difficulties of landing in the extremities. When it pulls to the opposite extremity, you find yourself down in the dirt in fights like that. But they are very, very familiar to it. Pink has been doing that in many, many chapters, in many, many spots. Thinking back to all the days of the Joneses, very similar situations he faced there. I'm sure he'll have a plan in the works for Hellfire and Refsguard. They are making their way to the zone, and not as far of the distance to go as some of the things we saw a couple moments ago. And way above on Surge as well, Jacob.
Yep, so for them, they have the luxury of kind of being able to focus solely on that rotation. You guys saw where the zone was. They're not too far off, and they're getting there rather quickly. And that's the comfortability I'm talking about of Surge, that when you're dough on Surge, you have to stay in the zone just like this. You have to fight for it every single inch of 447 above. Right now, they're just fighting for their lives, fighting for their game number 6. Astral, Duck on the other side, 86 above for them. If they can go ahead and come out on top in this one, that Storm Surge is going to be plentiful for their success in their road into the rest of this game. But Clement and Deceptos, it doesn't look like they're taking too many big chances, but as I say that, they trade shot for shot. Decepto's going to go down. Clement trying to think outside of the box. Shockwave hammering up, but it's also the reason why he takes a lot of damage to Astra. They trade shots back and forth. But I think Astra's going to be the one coming out on top. He has all the heals on his side. He can stay in the box. He can take all the time in the world. With the piece control going on over, he's trying to act very defensively, quickly getting in and out of the box. Clement, his choices are being dwindled. His options are being tossed out the window. Tries to go right back in with the Shockwave hammer, but gets denied again. But he trades a shot as Astro continuously backing down with every step.
Clement doesn't have time on his sides, but he does have intent and aggression. And sometimes that's all you need. Unfortunately for him, though, It looks like time is going to run out for him. They are now on the hunt, and they will clean him up. Unfortunate there for the Frenchie. Gonna have to hit the drawing board. But a nice attempt nonetheless. Ludwig and Albi looking to continue their reign in first place and stop anybody from closing that distance.
In a situation you don't see him in very often either. Right before it went away, they were down on Storm Surge, so even though they don't have to worry about it, it's still looming in the back of their minds about something they still have to deal with, something they still have to worry about. Just not in this exact moment. And they're pausing, trying to gather that information. They know that team is directly below them, but they also took some shots from the third parties. And this continues to pull towards the north side of the map. And without a shockwave hammer, it's going to be hard for some of these teams to get up the different elevated mountains around all these enemies. And so for Albi and Ludwig, holding on to first place, they got their work cut out for them.
And are we going to see that top aim I was talking about? Yes, we will. Wox and Robot pick up Thomas HD. And so that does not bode well for Malabuka in this one. You can see now how difficult of a task he has, because even in the storm still, players taking shots at him.
He just has scraps too when it comes to resources and mats. Not much to work with. Probably using it to try to stay alive, get to this position, losing Thomas along the way, and that's where you see him not really building, not really trying to give away his position, recycle as much as possible. As everybody else just trying to get them spot in his own. And honestly, this is a huge week. Even though they're not in first place, Pink and Nebs, they failed to qualify last week. And in terms of series points, in terms of that auto qualification directly into the grand finals and not having to play through Surge Week, this was crucial for them. And so I got to give them hats off, realizing the situation that they're in and performing to a high standard. With 1 week left, hopefully they can kind of mimic that as Robot and Wox trying to finish what they started. They got that first elimination, separated another player. This is absolutely crucial, and they're going to clean that one up with ease. And that's going to grant them a shockwave hammer. Every single time they get these eliminations, it adds to their total.
Really nice stuff here for the Swedes. We'll be hoping that this run of luck can continue. Malabuka tried his best. But again, not going to be enough to avenge Thomas there. Ludwig and Albi. Right into another fight. They almost connected with a big shot there. Cosmo just doing his best to scurry away before returning fire himself. That's going to slow Ludwig down just that bit.
That was a huge find by Albi. Ludwig being the distraction. Not only they're above Surge, he's able to back up. They get the shockwave hammer. As long as they're able to heal up, they'll be in good shape. 132 above the damage threshold. Not too far to go before they're in zone. Expending the builds. That's a sacrifice that they're willing to make at this stage of the game. Just take note of their points. If they do go down, that's going to be the threshold that we're looking for.
Yeah, we saw Vino go down in the feed, so that is not a good thing at all, not a good sign. He's actually down and out completely. Pink and Nebs are nearby, and so if they hear Queasy struggles, they might look to get involved in this themselves. But Queasy now has a big job on his hands, and of course, in terms of series points, they are going to be looking very good after this performance, regardless of where they finish now. But you still want to go out with a bang. And like, you can't rule that out for Queasy. More hammers than he could ever do anything with, and if Pink and Nebs go in there, they might be greeted with a cheeky little gift. Seti in a very similar situation. A lot of the times today we've seen Cammy having to clutch up solo. This time around, it's going to be his teammate Seti with that burden.
With these North Zone pulls, they're not really able to set up the way they want to with the tower in the sky to fight for the Surge, and all these teams rotating into their position because they too have to focus on their own rotation to make it this far. As Artie looking like he's getting ready to shockwave at the perfect time. Knows that he's there, possibly by himself. If I were him, you got the empty slot, pick up the Falcon Scout, scan real quick, see everybody that's in close proximity, but doesn't have the time anymore. Zone continuously pushing in, forcing them to move forward in their journey. As Seti's just trying to take some shots. He needs that Surge as a solo.
Yeah, and I think Walla Pink, and they've just got sort of knocked away. Queasy, not even going to shockwave hammer in, wants to stay inconspicuous. Just going to run in, use these old builds for protection. Stay way here in the backside, try to go unnoticed. Of course, the more attention he brings to himself, the worse. So he'll be patient, not in a rush. Thought he spotted an opportunity there. Nevertheless, just clearing out a pathway for him to get into zone. Another hammer will take him just beneath that height team. He might actually try to sneak up on him and take it for himself as a solo. What is Queasy doing? Very ambitious there from Queasy. I don't think that's the play I would have made, but nevertheless, I'm not going to question him. Either way, though, that is the end of their run in today's games.
Like a magnet to height, it almost feels like. Always find themselves at the highest elevation, but at the same time, really thinking outside of the box, trying to take advantage of a team that may not have expected him coming, but expected or not, they definitely showed up and answered the call. Kyrie and Pings putting some shots in the distance. Seti's going to go down as well. Slove and Artie, 11 below, continuously falling even further. Now they're 28, trying to put the shots, but they can't put too much pressure because they both have red eyes. But landed just enough, 2 above the damage threshold. Seeing the loot right below, have to make that conscientious decision. Is it worth it? Is it not? Is it a risk we're willing to take? And with a few teams being there around them, they didn't take the risk, and they get the reward regardless. Flodax is the one who gets caught being a little greedy, and they strike from above.
And they might be able to pick up that loot as well. They are still wary of what lies beneath. And once they think it's time to take the gamble, they will walk on in and they will pick up another. Wow. Brilliantly done there from Artie and Slove. And this is the makings of a very, very good game. Of course, the zone starting to move will mean that they have to pick up the pace a bit. Can't dwell on those limbs. Just have to make a move on.
Yep, Puhawa and Joker just trying to shockwave to the front side of zone. They got themselves there just in the nick of time, down on Surge. That's not a situation we want to be in. And they see Slove close by. Not going on the offensive, though. Right now, they're going to try to out-heal it to begin with. Waiting for some other teams trying to get in zone as well. That's where we're going to peek through and look back, but they're getting pressured, stuck to on the defensive end, holding the covers. And this is where they're trying to expand out. The information that they're gathering right now is very, very crucial. 64 below. You got to imagine how many other teams are just not peeking because they're above.
Chawa and Joker going to be searching all around. And opportunities are definitely there. Not bad, but wishing maybe it could have been more. That's Vico that will be picked up. And so Kylie now stuck in the mud there in zone. Going to medkit and hope that that can do him a wonder and keep him in the zone for just that bit longer. But for Chawa and Joker, they'll be happy out of that. Just getting above now. And maybe realizing that there's more there for a moment. Bad snap and Floki currently based up above. All those cones, the metal ones reinforced. Very strong in that position. But we've seen players look strong here at the beginning of the 6th zone and not really do anything with it. So the game's not done. They still need to perform. They still need to deliver.
The last time we seen a situation like this with Queasy and Vino down, nobody really knew when and where to take height. They probably just assumed they were up there. And for Bad Sniper, they are already up there. They know they have the highest viewpoint of the land. There's X-Squeeze and POTUSI, 252 above, only peeking when have to. And there goes the information. X-Squeeze letting them know this is where you're going to shockwave me, straight to the front side of zone, trying to get there as quick as possible. Albie and Ludwig along the way as well. Artie and Slove, they found some eliminations to get to this point, built themselves a cushion when it comes to Storm Surge, trying to catch somebody slipping backside of zone. Putting the shots on, pressuring a team just enough, just to make them feel like there's somebody watching them every step of the way before they shockwave themselves, stealing away the front side.
Yeah, and you can see a cut-off here happening. Nebinator, he tried his best, couldn't really connect with the shot. And so, back to square one. The focus being to move on throughout the zone. Nobody really contesting height whatsoever. This might be free for Bad Sniper and Floki.
Yep, and coming into this one, Groles and Fire Hunter towards the top. They're on that bubble of that top 40, almost forced to go through Surge Week as Albie and Ludwig on the other side of that one. Another top finish here. They can bypass that whole week, go directly into the grand finals. And once again, Albie with the solid gold, ready to terrorize some teams with the Excalibur as well. They get into that front side of zone. POTUSI and X-Squeeze pressuring from different angles, trying to edit themselves in and out before peeking straight through, trying to get to the front side, but they get separated. POTUSI ends up with a speed bump, but he finds his way. Nonetheless. X-Squeeze goes down, though, so that leaves himself as a solo, wondering, how am I going to make this work?
I don't even know how POTUSI survived there. Got pieced up for the hammer, got him out of dodge. Now, though, without a teammate, without hope, he needs to connect with a big shot. This is his chance, this is his moment. But will he be able to connect? for Ping and Kyrie. They move forward in the zone. And there is a team on this snare that they need to be careful about. That's going to be Albi and Ludwig that dropped down one beneath them. But they still need to be careful because they will try and chop them out. And that's exactly what's looking to happen here. Kyrie almost getting split up. So he needs to stay by his duo's side. And the hammer play to knock them down. These guys are so aggressive. They don't care who you are. They just want to take you out.
Makes a little bit of a mistake there trying to get the edit. That would have been a huge shot and fire off. But Floki and Bad Sniper, they held high ground for the past 2 zones so far, looking to make it a third. Pressure is there from the Red Eye, but his ammo is looking a little light. Sooner or later, that pressure is going to stop. Mr. Savage and iDrop trying to recycle. They have no builds towards the low ground, trying to make it work. But sooner or later, they're going to run into a team, and there it goes. Mr. Savage trying to make it work. That's Kyrie. He's left there, trying to make it work. Vaniac on the other side as well. So many other teams stuck in this chaos and destruction, but somehow, some way, Mr. Savage and iDrop keep their eye on the prize, find a sliver of low ground to work with.
The Norwegians are on the move. They're on the hunt. They're on the pounce. Don't want to mess with them. They'll come rolling through and take you out. Looking to claim low now, but there'll be a couple other teams that have their eyes on that as well. You've got to think eventually Pink and Nevs will do the same, but they have to start connecting with something. Running on mats, a refresh will be needed, but knocked right into the zone. I don't think that's what Pink would have intended. Just down to 10 HP now. And a couple of shields remaining. The mini will get him up just that bit more. But without Nebs, without much HP, all builds, this is a tough task to ask of Pink.
He has the shockwave hammer. Not wasting any time. Into the zone, though. Down goes Pink. Hopefully his points were enough to boost him up the series point leaderboard. Mr. Savage, men miss, outside of the zone, trying to find his way in. And it's going to go down the hill. This is the best possible scenario for Mr. Savage. He finds a crevice, something to work with. He gives himself hope.
A lifeline in this game. That's exactly what Mr. Savage needs. When you give him an inch, he'll take an absolute mile. And he sees Robot there. Can he connect, though? Putting a stair in between him, added protection, then looking to take the walls, looking to claim some space, and there's some loot above him. That might be the free drop he needed, but the team above is going to be raining havoc, and that's not going to be what Mr. Savage needs, but he can keep hitting shots and keep making plays, and maybe, just maybe, he can take out Floki in a 1v1 now. I don't know how we've ended up here, but nevertheless, Mr. Savage has a chance. Can Floki stop him, though?
Poki's just trying to play defensive right now, not making any big moves. Peeks down, shockwaves again, but he lands the shot that matters. Floki with 14 eliminations for him and his duo take the 6th and final game.
Floki and Bad Sniper held height from the beginning of the end game all the way to the end. Brilliantly held, brilliantly done, and they close out the day strong. The Frenchies putting on a show.
Putting on a show indeed. 4 straight zones, Bad Sniper and Floki. They built themselves up with a ton of resources, a ton of opportunity for the end game, taking down Grolls, finding even more loot to work with. Eventually, push came to shove. They take down first place as well. This is literally a legendary duo rising to the occasion and taking over no matter what superstars are in their lobby.
And look, speaking of superstars, Mr. Savage, very much impressing us, very much showing us, especially in this last game, just why he is respected. He couldn't do it in the final 1v1 against Floki, but nevertheless, very, very impressive stuff. Bad Sniper and Floki, they take game 6 of week number 2, and what a week it has been, Jacob. The EU players, you wanted them to step up, and they certainly did. These have been some of the best games we've had all major long.
Yo, I agree with that. Got me smiling ear to ear, figuring out what's going to happen, though, next? The leaderboards, they're in shambles. The series point leaderboards, who knows where we ended up after this one? Luckily, we have 3 of the best analysts in all of Fortnite to break it down and guide us to where we need to go.
Thank you so much, Jacob. PR11 2K, an amazing set of 6 games. My goodness. I just can't even believe how chaotic EU was coming into week number 2. We had highs, we had lows, we had surprises. I mean, what a day.
No surprise, though, that we see Albi and Ludwig managing to stay consistent throughout. We saw them basically just playing for placement. I think that they were very tactical in terms of how they actually chose to move throughout that first moving zone. It was an especially difficult position, I think, for them to try and play from that mid-ground territory, because while they might have had 55 mats, at the same time, you can expend those so rapidly because of the Shockwave Hammer. And I just gotta say it, though, a quick shout out to Mr. Savage, not just for that 0-0 Nation signing, but also because of the initial start off in general to this game. he had a phenomenal performance, clutching out a 1v2 scenario when JJ2 and Glubshy actually chose to switch their drop spot over to Anvil Square. And I think because of that instance, Mr. Savage with that second place finish, Jenny.
Yeah, Mr. Savage there was able to pick up iDrop, and if he wasn't, then he would have had to run that as a solo. So the fact that he was able to get him up definitely made them in such a great position to win, and they got really, really close, but in second is still so good, and they were able to still get so many eliminations, so it ended up very good for them.
Yeah, I mean, hey, going up 9 places to hit top 8, that's pretty dang good, but look at the top 6. None of them moved. Everyone's like, okay, hey, is everybody happy? Let's just play this last game out. Everybody do what you're doing. We'll all go home. We'll come back next week. We'll fight for the crown then. My goodness, just to see the level of skill, because, you know, usually you'll watch standings shift at least once, maybe twice, you know, but to have that top 6 cemented that way, that shows skill.
Largely due to the fact that I think that the in-game points as well were just so heavily stacked towards that top 3 position, and Podesai and Essuiz especially managing to maintain their second place position throughout. We saw numerous instances of these two hanging out from that south side of the Brutal Bastion area, and despite the fact that these were a lot of north pulling zones, I think that we still saw some wonderful instances of Podesai and Essuiz. They weren't trying to be overly greedy with anything. They saw their advantages, they made sure to take them, and they never really looked for an overextension.
Oh yeah, they had their idea of where they were going to rotate, and again, like, that positioning is so important, and they didn't run into anybody trying to get that extra damage on Storm Surge, which put them in a good placement for Storm in that area. Again, it could have probably been a little bit more ideal in their drop spot, but again, they did have some good positionings, and they made it work perfectly.
Yeah, another duo I do want to highlight here, Seti and Cammy, a duo we would not expect to continue to drop down. Now, of course, they did make top 10. That's still quite an accomplishment. But if they don't pick it up in week number 3, we could be looking at seeing them go into Surge Week, where they need a Victory Royale or have to place top 5. That window is so much smaller in Surge Week.
It's definitely a slim margin, but at the same time, if I would expect anybody to do it, it's Seti and Cammy. They are a history team for a reason, and keep in mind also your FNCS Invitational winners, which is always going to be pertinent to the conversation, because just when you think that they might be out of it, these guys have a tendency to look for that pop-off factor.
Yeah, I always like to say, you just never count them out. Do not count Cammy and Seti out, because they show up when it's needed, so I am just so certain that whenever they have to show up, they're going to make sure that they keep playing this through, because we're going to want to see them in land, and I know that they want to be there too.
That's right. Hey, guess what, Fortnite fam? Got a little special interview for you. It's none other than the man himself, Queasy, who's coming on through. Queasy, what's going on, dude? It's great to see you. How you doing?
What's good? A bit depressed, but it's okay.
Bro, there's nothing to be depressed about. You placed 3rd. Okay, listen. If we have to talk about it, I want to ask. So what happened, right? We had these, like, amazing games from you and Vino, but there was, like, those 2 games where one of you was, like, down, right? So, like, what happened in those 2 games?
I'm not really sure. Like, we got really good luck today with zones and with hammers from our drop spot, which we don't usually get.
Okay.
So I think we definitely could have played better, but I don't think we played that bad, considering, like, everything. I feel like the lag might have, like, maybe messed us up a little bit today, but other than that, I think we did good.
I can only say Queasy would be one to be disappointed by a 3rd place finish. That's a little bit of that champion's mental shining through, but you guys are definitely in a fantastic spot for looking to find yourselves in the grand finals, as is just from your performances these past 2 weeks. So what's the mental for heading into week 3 knowing that?
I mean, I think we're just going to relax, probably stream it both, and yeah, take that chill week off and then prepare for grands.
All right, Queasy, I gotta ask. So we've been seeing this shift from holding like the SMG to everybody holding a pistol. What's going on there? Give me a little insight.
I'm pretty sure it's just because the perk can be unlocked at any time of the game, so people can carry red dots, get their surge up, and then unlock the pistol and just play the pistol.
Yeah, that's dope, dude. Okay, so if you're gonna take a little bit of a chill week, is there something you guys want to, like, improve or work on going into week 3?
I think we're just gonna keep everything hidden for now for grand finals. We have some strats coming, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like it, a little secretive.
I mean, that's Queasy Vito, though. They always
like
have
it.
something, and those clutch moments when you need to clutch up, you guys are always there. So first off, we just want to thank you so much, Queasy. For people out there who maybe don't know you, and I don't know why they wouldn't, but for those that don't, where can they look to find you?
QueasyFN on Twitter.
There you go. Clean. You like to keep it Queasy and Simple. Okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Anyway, anyway, Queasy, I'll catch you later, man. Thank you
See
so
you,
much
Queasy.
for your time. We
Thank
really
you.
do appreciate it. Well, hey, that is pretty much it here in EU, and I hate that we have to say goodbye because it means we won't get to hang out for another week, but it's okay. Before we go, why don't we talk about that broadcast schedule? If you've enjoyed this, don't forget, there's also NA East. We're back next weekend. NA East will be first, then we'll be right back here for EU to bring you all of the action.